Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Common Ladder Accidents and How to Avoid Them, the second webinar in our 2026 National Ladder Safety Month webinar series. My name is Joseph Grabick, and I'm with the American Ladder Institute. We are excited to have Kenyon Allen and Dave Francis from Little Giant Ladder Systems lead today's presentation, but before we begin, a few quick announcements. The American Ladder Institute is a not-for-profit association dedicated to promoting the safe use of ladders. Its members are affiliated with the ladder and ladder component manufacturing industry, and ALI is the American National Standards Institute approved developer of ladder safety standards. National Ladder Safety Month, observed in March and spearheaded by ALI, is the only program dedicated exclusively to promoting ladder safety at home and at work. This year marks the 10th anniversary of National Ladder Safety Month, and we are excited to bring you a new series of webinars covering safe ladder use. We are grateful to Little Giant's partnership on this webinar. Through its innovative climbing solutions, Little Giant focuses on raising awareness and prioritizing ladder safety. A few quick housekeeping items. All attendees will remain muted during the program. At the end of the presentation, attendees can ask questions by typing them into the Q&A feature. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording with all attendees later this week. The recording will also be hosted online at laddersafetymonth.com. Please note that personal recording devices are not permitted during the webinar. Before we begin, we'd also like to ask for your help with an important industry survey. ALI is currently conducting the 5th iteration of our ladder safety training and citation survey, which helps assess the effectiveness of ladder safety training across the industry. We'd like to hear from you about ladder-related safety training, injuries, and OSHA citations at your company. The survey takes about 15 minutes to complete, and all responses are anonymous. Your input will help improve ladder safety training efforts and resources for ladder users. We'll also drop the survey link in the chat for anyone interested in participating. And with that, I'll pass it over to the Little Giant team. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for the introduction, and thankful that everybody could show up. We appreciate our partnership with the American Ladder Institute and ANSI, governing the safe manufacturing of ladders. We're happy to be part of that. So my name's Kenyon. I'll be your guest instructor for the next few minutes, and appreciate the time that you spent with us. Me personally, I've been with Little Giant since 1995. This is the only place that I'm referred to as a competent person. I get home and my wife says that title does not apply. But as far as ladders and ladder safety, you're in good hands. We also were partnered with Dave Francis, who has been with Little Giant since 1982. Dave, good to see you. He's coming to us from his home office in South Carolina. So Dave, thanks for being with us.
Good to be on, Kenyon.
Awesome. So as far as subject matter experts, we're going to turn to Dave a little bit later, and he'll be part of our Q&A. But let's jump into the reason that we're together. Ladder safety. Now, Little Giant, if you're not familiar, an American ladder brand that's been around since 1972, so 54 years in the ladder industry, and we're based in Utah. That's where we are right now, coming to you live. It's 9:03 a.m. out here in the great state of Utah. And inside our building where we manufacture a lot of our products, we also built these studios, and that allows us to be, whether you're at your home office, we have been using our studios to teach ladder safety, to now we're keeping track, 43 countries. How cool is that? 43 countries and counting from this studio, which I really appreciate, because there was a time that I would hop on an airplane and travel, but now we can just come to the home office, and we actually have 2 interactive studios. So this one we named after the founder of Little Giant, Mr. Hal Wing, and we have our industrial studio on the other side of the wall, and there we teach cable and telecom. We also have a vault where we can teach underground utility or confined space trainings in there. And then behind the scenes, let's introduce you to Paxton Wing, who's manning the boards. Pretty cool that we really appreciate the technology that allows us to do that. And then as we go, of course, Paxton's going to be an important part of that. All right, let's talk about portable ladder safety and the reason that we're together. And Paxton, just so that you know, I believe that your microphone's open. So let's talk about why. I think it's important to discuss the why behind portable ladder safety, and hopefully everybody's taking notes. Does everybody have something to write on? Whether it's your tablet, device, old school pen and paper. We want you to take this information back to those that you care for. We have a lot of managers, business owners, supervisors, and a lot of us use ladders at home as well. So please, we want you to take some notes. Take this information back to those that you care about, those that you care for. But why? Why do we talk about ladders, and why would the ALI deem March National Ladder Safety Month? Why is this stuff so important? Because we've been climbing ladders for how long? 2 years old, maybe you were 3, you were at the playground, and you've been climbing on equipment since the time you could walk, so you would think that people would get ladders right. But we see people choose to get ladders wrong. Now, these gentlemen, they look like they would know better, and they probably have an 8-foot A-frame, which would be the right ladder for the job. They probably have an 8-foot step ladder back on the truck or back at the shop. They've just chosen not to use it. So we can know the right thing and then choose to do something completely wrong. So the first note that I'll have you make is that it does take some time and it does take some discipline, but please choose to do the right thing. Okay, OSHA keeps track of the number of violations that they write, and if we looked at the top 10 categories in which OSHA writes violations, 4 of those top 10 are related to working at heights. And ladders used to be number 5. Just a few years ago, ladders was number 5. And this is, again, the categories in which OSHA writes violations. And I think ladders is going in the wrong direction. More important than the violations, though, are the people that are affected. Have you checked on the Fatal 4 lately? And we look at number 1. Now, ladders are only part of that bigger number. And we should probably remind you that OSHA does not track or report the vehicle fatalities. So this is according to OSHA. But look, we look at number 1, and then we look at something dangerous like number 3. And I think it's surprising that we are 5 times more likely to have a fatal injury because of a fall than we are by almost anything else. And I think it's because we do become a little bit complacent, we become a little bit lazy. When something appears to be dangerous or worth our time, then we take precautions. We know when to lock out and tag out, but when it comes to working at heights, how many of us have come across that employee that says, hey, I got this. It's easy. How hard can it be? Well, obviously the statistics tell us that we need to pay attention. And that's why, again, the ALI and Little Giant deem this so important. This subject matter is important to draw attention to portable ladder safety. So this is why. When we teach ladder safety, we're going to touch on 4 pillars, or the pillars of safety. Number 1, that we're choosing the right ladder for the job. What does that mean? Also, that we're setting ladders up, or inspection being number 2, and why inspection is so important. Also, that we're setting ladders up correctly, and that we're climbing ladders safely. So these are our chapter headings. So number 1, let's get into choosing the right ladder for the job. And should go without saying, but we should probably say it here, that when you're choosing the right ladder, let's make sure it's a ladder. Because we do see people use things that they shouldn't be standing upon. Have you ever stood on even something at home, a bar stool or a chair? At work, combinations of things that we really shouldn't be on. So let's at least start with a ladder, and the right ladder will be number 1, the right material, because the material can make a big difference. A lot of really good metal ladders out there, but if you're around electrical applications, we would encourage you to choose a material that's non-conductive. Of course, wood being non-conductive. Fiberglass, the choice for a lot of professionals. It's light, non-conductive, and will last quite a while. So make sure you're choosing the material that's appropriate for the work that you're doing. Check mark number 1. Number 2 would be that we're choosing the right weight rating. And weight ratings in America start at 200 pounds, and then they move up. We need to do a little bit of math. If you're on the ladder, it's not just the weight that's on your driver's license, it's you, your boots, clothing. If you're in Ohio in January, you probably have a few layers of clothing, plus it's every tool. And we remember that ladders are a communal tool, and the ladder that's in the maintenance closet, somebody else has access to that ladder as well. So if we think of everyone that has access to that particular ladder, if you choose those higher weight ratings, then the community can be safe. So we would encourage you those higher weight ratings. for that reason. Okay, so choose the right weight rating, appropriate the work that you're doing, and then choose the right style or the right kind of ladder. Ladders come in different types. Step ladders have a purpose, step stools, extension ladders. Each one of these has its own or separate purpose. Multi-purpose ladders, if you know anything about Little Giant, that's where Little Giant got its start, 1972. The multi-purpose ladders, we do those in aluminum and in fiberglass. Now this is where we're going to get kind of specific. When we say to choose the right kind of ladder, OSHA says only use a ladder for the purpose for which it was designed. Now what this means is that we don't makeshift solutions, right? It's not okay to take a traditional step ladder, close it, lean it against something because it wasn't designed by the manufacturer for that purpose. So there's been innovation, and a big nod to the entire ladder industry for the innovation that has been created, especially over the last 10, 12 years. But as an example, the King Combo, where the back legs will close and lock into position, the top cap prepared to lean safely, and then we know that a lot of end users are going to be in corners, correct? Or on corners against studs, but that could also be a pipe or a pole, or even that lighting fixture out by the tennis court. So we're safe because of the product's design. So just a reminder here to be familiar with the equipment, know what your products can do, what they were intentionally designed for, and not to makeshift solutions. Okay, if you have any questions, reach out to your supervisor, read the labels. That's why the labels are on your products. Be familiar with the equipment and what your products have been designed to accomplish. Okay, so that's a big one. Don't makeshift solutions, and then of course choose the right size. And we know this is review for you. You're probably already familiar that with a 6-foot step ladder, you're not at 6 and you're not at 5. The highest standing surface on a 6-foot step ladder is 4 feet. So if we're standing at 4, most people have a reach or a working height of 10 to 10.5. So if your work or your application is at 12, then a 6-foot ladder is no longer the right size. So just a reminder, do not stand on the top rung, do not stand on the top cap of a traditional step ladder unless it's been designed for that purpose, and then you would just change the application. So on some products that have been designed for that intended purpose, remember it's not a step ladder anymore, we're just converting it into an extension ladder. So step ladders are pretty clear, right? We know where we shouldn't stand on step ladders. Hopefully that's a review for you. Extension ladders, this is what gets people in trouble sometimes because they're not aware that a 20-foot ladder is not 20 feet long. Remember, 20-foot ladders are 20 feet of material. So 10-foot base section, 10-foot fly section, so there's 20 feet, but remember that those sections are in tandem or to be used together. So 20-foot ladders are 17 feet long, correct? Because there's 3 feet of material that overlaps. That means that your 24s are not 24, your 32s are not 32. So make sure that you are aware of how ladders are manufactured, or extension ladders have that overlap. And remember that OSHA also requires overlap above the upper landing. At minimum, 3 feet, at least 3 feet above the side rail, or of those side rails shall extend above that upper landing. You need balance and control as you're transitioning from the ladder and especially back onto the ladder. You need to have at least 3 feet above that upper landing so that you, your employees, your family members can do that safely. So your ladder needs to be long enough in order for you to do that, or tall enough. So 3 feet above the upper landing, and then of course the overlap of the material. So make sure your extension ladders are tall enough. Obviously your step ladders are tall enough. And if your products, your equipment isn't tall enough, just some reminders that we don't stand where we shouldn't, regardless of the equipment. The top is usually not something that we stand or transition from or sit upon. And we also don't stack ladders on top of other items, right? Ladders are not to be placed on boxes and barrels or the tables in the gym. If this school looks familiar to you, would you please let us know? We would love to have a conversation with this. They need a little ladder safety training in their life. And then we also don't stack ladders on top of each other. If you can imagine that somebody would think that, well, if I need a 10-foot ladder, maybe I take a 6 and a 4 and add them together. We don't stack ladders, we don't tie or lash ladders together, and then we certainly don't stack employees on top of each other either. Should go without saying. Yeah, I know, it's funny. Okay, so that's all part of chapter number 1 in choosing the right ladder. Make sure it's the material, the weight rating, the style, and the size. And all of that's within your control, isn't it? So we take some time and exercise the discipline to find the right ladder. Make sure it's the correct ladder for the job. Chapter number 2 is inspection. And now the trick question here is, how much does a broken ladder hold? Right? We don't know. You don't know. I don't know. We don't know. How much does a broken ladder hold? We don't guess. We need to assess the ladder's condition. And the only way that you're going to know if something's broken or missing or compromised is to take a minute and look the ladder over. This is a visual inspection, and it's to be done before each initial use. This is not just a best practice. This is required per OSHA that before each initial use, we take a minute. Now, you will have EH&S or safety officers take a deeper dive, and they might go through your equipment with a fine-tooth comb, maybe quarterly or biannually. But if you're the one using a ladder, it is on you to look it over before each initial use. And it's a good idea at home, right? If your neighbor has borrowed your ladder to do their Christmas lights and they're bringing it back, you don't know what your ladder's done or gone through while it was away from you. So good idea, even at home, take a minute and look your ladder over. There's a great app. Let's introduce you to the NIOSH Safety app. If you don't know, NIOSH being the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, essentially the science arm behind or part of OSHA, and they have developed a free resource for us that you can have on your phone as you're doing your own toolbox talks or as you're onboarding employees. Anyway, great resource, and inspection is just part of that app, and you can go through and make those check marks. So let's just go through a quick inspection and make sure that everybody knows why and what we're looking for. I usually start at the bottom and look at the feet. The feet, number 1, should be present. Think of the feet of a ladder like the tires that are on your car. You would not drive your car with bald tires, and you wouldn't drive your truck with missing tires. Don't ever use a ladder with compromised feet. Make sure that they are present and in like new condition. And if they're not, swap them out. And as a safety feature, field replaceable feet, that would be considered a safety feature. You can swap those out. Okay, side rail. Aluminum side rails are going to be one thing. Watch for any permanent cracks, deformities, bends, things that should be rotated out. But fiberglass, you've got a lot going on. And I don't know if you've ever seen how fiberglass is made, but you've got different strands of material pulled into a tighter profile, baked into a resin, or essentially plastic material. So if that side rail is not sound, if it's broken, split, cracked, we don't know how much a broken ladder is going to hold. And the rule of thumb that we would teach you to err on the side of caution is just run your hand over the side rail, and if the fibers are on the outside, good indication that it's undergone some stress or become weakened. And this includes fiber bloom. You've all seen aging fiberglass, haven't you? Ladders that are stored outdoors, on vans, on trucks, where they're susceptible to the weather, winter weather, hot summer sun, depending on the seasonality or where you are and how exposed your ladders might be, they will age. And they tend to, that hot summer sun or the winter weather will wear that resin away until the fibers come to the surface. So the industry refers to this as fiber bloom. And if your ladders get that chalky white appearance, it's time to tag those and take those out of service. Now, the safety concern here, it's not that you're going to get a sliver in your finger. The safety concern about fiber bloom is that when those fibers are open to the elements, they have the potential to draw moisture. If it rains overnight, those fibers may become waterlogged, and we've heard of cases where they have arc flashed. So that might surprise you, and that might be some new information. You grabbed a fiberglass ladder, assuming that it was non-conductive, but if it has that fiber bloom, it's not quite as non-conductive as you might assume, okay? So make sure that's on your list of checks. Side rails, rungs, treads, steps, platforms, any standing surface is going to have traction, texture. Make sure that's not gummed up with mud, debris, anything slippery, etc. Make sure they're clean, but also that they're free from damage, because eventually a crease becomes a crack. And that cosmetic damage that you can live with will eventually turn into structural damage that you can't live with. So make sure that you teach your employees what's the difference, what's acceptable, what's not, but check the rungs for that kind of damage. And then the fasteners. Now, fasteners are going to include nuts and bolts, screws, rivets, even welded together. So make sure that your fasteners are tight. The manufacturer put those fasteners on your equipment to hold components together. Make sure that they're tight. Watch for corrosion if your ladders are older and you can hold onto the head of a rivet and rotate a rivet head. It's not holding on to much. So make sure that you tag those out. And then any other related components. And this includes spreader bars, top caps, rope and pulley systems. If your ladders have levelers or other cable hooks, and really any of the components that we haven't addressed yet. Make sure everything's operational the way that it was designed by the manufacturer. Err on the side of caution here, because if one part of your ladder is hung up, missing, or broken, the entire ladder should be deemed tagged out. And some repairs can be made, right? Just make sure that repairs are only made by a competent person, done to the specifications of the manufacturer. If you have any questions, reach out to the manufacturer, and don't makeshift, and no baling wire, no duct tape. Don't start making things up. Only by a competent person and only to the specifications of the manufacturer. Okay, and then your labels. Labels are more important than people think they are. They should be part of your inspection, and they have safety information, highest weight rating, highest standing surface. Some labels even have QR codes that'll take you to instructional videos. So the labels are pretty important. And if they're faded or torn and employees don't have access to that information, even just the labels can be a cause for safety violations. So keep up on your labels. Again, reach out to the manufacturer and they can help you. As a whole, I think the ladder industry has done a pretty good job at moving the more important labels to the inside of the side rail so that it protects the labels from the bumping and bruising that happens. And then as a best practice, we would recommend that when a ladder finally served its life, right? Most ladders are going to be retired at some point. We would recommend as best practice that you destroy a ladder before you throw it away. Don't just lay a ladder into a dumpster. You want to limit your liability, render that ladder into unclimbable sections, cut that ladder right down the middle, less abrasive on your saw blades as well, but more importantly is that it's going to limit your liability, destroy your ladders before you throw them away. And then also we would recommend that you don't give your previous ladders or your old ladders to your employees. We know you're just trying to be nice, but if they're not safe enough for you at work, they're not safe enough for somebody to be at home doing their Christmas lights. Okay, so that's inspection. So if we've done chapter number 1 and we know it's the right ladder, number 2, we know it's in good condition, now the ladder is not the issue. Remember that many ladders are tested at 4 times what the label says. And so rarely, if ever, is a ladder in like new condition going to be part of an incident or accident. It's when something's broken, missing. So make sure that you're vigilant, look ladders over, hold that up as the culture in your organization, and like we said, as a good idea at home. Look ladders over before each initial use. Now let's talk about setup. Number 3 in our chapters is our setup. And we'll caution about creativity. Of course, creativity being the enemy of safety. There is no amount of lumber or other ladders that should be part of your setup. OSHA says that the feet of the ladder should be on ground that is both stable and level unless your ladders are secured or stabilized. So take your time. If you are securing a ladder at the bottom, take your time. Either dig out the, well, usually when you're staking ladders off of the bottom, we're going to take time. And there are job-built solutions. There are accessories that help you get that done. So making sure, and hard for us to illustrate every scenario that you might be in, but you might, in those extreme cases, secure at the bottom, secure at the top. Your company or your industry might have best practice, might have protocol that's expected of you. So roofing companies and telecom, they have their own protocol. So make sure that you're following all best practice and protocol when you get into these situations. Secure in place when necessary. But let's talk about level ground. Level ground, when you're off just a little bit, even a 6-foot step ladder can be highly affected. And don't think that you're going to climb on, one side of it and try to do some kind of balancing act and be okay. That's not okay. But even just 1 inch of unlevel ground, look at what it does to a 28-foot extension ladder. 1 inch doesn't sound like a lot, but it turns into 19 inches off from plumb at the top of a 28-foot extension ladder. So the top of your ladder isn't even in the footprint. And what do most people do when we get in these situations? I think human nature is that we take a rock or brick piece of wood and shim up the low side. Did you know that OSHA prefers that we dig out the high side? Make that note. OSHA prefers that we dig out the high side, don't block up the low side, or the right ladder might have built-in levelers. There are plenty of accessories or ladders that can adapt or adjust. The sumo stance by Little Giant, or the adjustable safety cage. Again, that's been Little Giant's DNA for 54 years. Either prepare the ground to be firm and level, or be prepared with the right equipment that can adapt or adjust to create that firm level environment. Okay, part of our setup also includes the correct angle, the correct inclination. We don't want to set a ladder up too steep because it might become top heavy. We certainly don't want to set a ladder up too shallow because the feet may slide out. So OSHA wants us to do a math problem, or safe practice would be, do you remember the math problem? A 4-to-1 ratio. So for every 4 feet that we're going up, the bottom of the ladder should be 1 foot away. Just divide by 4. If we're 16 feet in the air, then we're 4 feet away down here at the bottom. So 4-to-1 ratio, or a 75-degree angle. And a really easy way to calibrate 75 degrees, called the firefighter's rule, and simply put your toe at the bottom. And firefighters are taught that if they put their toe at the bottom of a ladder, then at shoulder height, most people should be able to hold on to the side rail or cover the rung, because your arms are in relation to how tall you are, usually. And then if they're not, you get a dad joke. See, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny everywhere. Okay, now what if your ladder could tell you? What if there was a ladder that could indicate if it was set up correctly? Safety through the design. Good idea. Okay, and then there are a few variables that we should touch on because of the seasonality, because of the work that you do. You might be indoors, you might be outdoors, and there are things that we should be aware of that change, that it should be part of your setup. First of all, overhead obstructions. If we're indoors, it's going to be door jams. If you're in manufacturing, there are going to be belts and conveyors. There are things that are overhead, but especially overhead power. You have to be aware of where your overhead power lines are. Have you ever seen an energized extension ladder? If an aluminum ladder came in contact with overhead power, this would ruin your day right here. The ladder is literally melting. So we need to be aware of overhead obstructions, but especially overhead power lines. We also need to be aware of the weather. The weather is a variable that may change. There are days where the wind is too strong, too much rain, too much hail, too much of anything. It's going to affect how or if you do set up. And then traffic. You might be a school district or hospital or healthcare when you're thinking about not just your own safety, but those around you. So that might affect your setup as well. So do you have protocol that tells you to put out a cone, or even caution tape, or a barricade? This also includes a coworker that might spot you, or doors that might be secured. So make sure that you're aware of your surroundings and people, foot traffic, vehicle traffic, and take precautions and how that might affect your setup. Of course, visibility is also an important part of your setup. That's why we would strongly encourage you to wear your PPE. That's why Little Giant has gone to that high-vis green, because if we looked at the spectrum of the human eye, we perceive that high-vis yellow, high-vis green, easier, faster, safer. And since we're a safety company, we thought that would be a good idea, safety colors. Okay. And then transportation. Part of our setup also includes getting the ladder from the maintenance closet, or from the tool crib, or from your truck, and bringing it to where you're using it. So part of our setup includes carrying ladders, especially when you account that this is the leading cause. The number one cause of injury that has to do with ladders is not that people fall from ladders, it's the way that they carry them. Ladders can be top heavy. They can be a little bit awkward, and so it leads to strain and sprain, or those soft tissue or overexertion injuries. So make sure that you're carrying ladders with intention. When you pick up and carry a 6-foot ladder, suddenly that 6-foot ladder is taller than you, and if you're going through a doorway, you need to be aware that that could create a strain or a sprain. So maybe you've been taught to carry ladders below your waist, parallel to the floor or the ground. You could carry lighter equipment, and that would be a solution within itself. So lighter equipment may be a solution, 2 hands below your waist. Some people are taught this suitcase method here, and then at some point it will be a 2-person carry. So know what that number is for your organization, 2-person carry. And then I'm a fan of putting a ladder on my shoulder. Now the asterisk here, the footnote, is that if you put a ladder on your shoulder, make sure you have the overhead room and that it's appropriate for your organization. But if a ladder's north of about 35 pounds, I like to carry it on my shoulder, because if it gets out of balance, it's easier for me to set it back down onto the ground, or worst case scenario, let it go and drop it. I've only had to do that a couple of times, but better that a ladder get damaged. You don't want to do it very often, but yeah, if you drop a ladder, it gets out of balance, the ladder will likely get damaged, but better that a ladder get damaged than your lower back. There's a lot of truth to that. Okay, so transportation and setup. And then our chapter number 4 is climbing, and climbing ladders safely. Now, I know that today we're talking about ladders, the ALI, and a lot of professionals here, but once we roll homeowners into the statistics, did you know that today in America, on a Tuesday in America, 2,000 injuries will happen, are reported, and 100 of those Americans will have some form of disability. Some of them are temporary, will last a week or two, and some of them are more permanent, but disabilities nonetheless. And there will be a fatality because of a portable ladder today, and it will happen again tomorrow. So a lot of families, and if you think these are only the reported numbers, so we wonder what the real numbers really are. That's why, again, we applaud the ALI and for you in your organizations for bringing attention to these statistics, and hopefully together we can bring these statistics down. But number 1, in our section of climbing ladders safely, when you're climbing, positioning yourself, working from any piece of equipment, number 1, that we never overreach. This is the common denominator that runs through most life-changing injuries, have some form of getting outside the footprint. Now, if this was just a simple 5-minute toolbox talk on a job site, you would probably hear somebody say, what? Keep your belt buckle between the side rails and you'll be okay. But look at this gentleman. Does he have his belt buckle between the side rails? Yes. Does he look like he's being safe? Absolutely not. So the higher law is to keep your shoulders between the side rails. That's what we would teach you here. Keep your shoulders between the side rails, and if you can't reach the work safely, think of your wingspan as your work, and if you can't reach the work safely, now it's time to come down, reposition, and climb back up. And how long does that take? 60 seconds, 90 seconds. But it does get tempting, and if there's just one last thing, one more thing, if we're in the privacy of our own backyard or in our own garage and nobody's looking, and just that one last thing, but we all know somebody, right, that would have made a huge difference. So we can't stress that one enough. That is a huge deal. In your notes, please write down, never overreach. Okay, 3 points of contact. Let's talk about that. What's required? OSHA says that at least one hand needs to be in contact with the ladder when climbing up and down. And I think those last 5 words are pretty instructive. When climbing up and down. So this is a combination of 1 hand and 2 feet, 2 hands and 1 foot when you're climbing, both up and down. So what do you do with your tools? Should tools be in your hands? The answer is no, because your hands need to be available. You have tool bags or a tool belt. You've got the innovation in a lot of top caps lately. But nothing should be in your hands. You should also keep your balance forward, and you should take your time. This is not a race. This is safety. It takes time. So take your time and maintain 3 points of contact. And what we want to illustrate here is that once you get to your final working position, 3 points of contact is now considered a highly recommended best practice. So the bottom of your boots and good footwear, okay, that could be considered contact number 1 and contact number 2. But what if you could hug the side rails? Would that offer you more balance and control? Maybe it's your left knee, maybe it's your right thigh, because a lot of the work that we do on portable equipment requires 2 hands. So we need to have balance and control with feet and boots and knees. And I have a friend, he maintains 3 points of contact whether he wants to or not. Right? That is, yeah, apologize if that offends anyone, but it's true. Okay, other tools that don't fit in your tool belt, they need to come up another way. And there are totes and lanyards, there are a lot of good accessories out there. Just make sure that these are not overloaded and that they are compatible with the equipment that you're on. Okay, same rules apply. On the way down, the same 3 points of contact. Remember, it's required when we're climbing up and down, but there's a new variable that just changed everything, and it's that bottom rung. Think, have you ever missed the bottom rung of a ladder? Happens all the time. So make sure that you are aware of where you are, environmental awareness, make contact with every single rung, and better yet, if your ladder could tell you that you're at the bottom, then safety through the design. So there are innovations like the ground cue that will remind you. You get that haptic feedback, you can hear it, you feel it, that rung is different, so we treat it differently, safety through the innovation. And then there are a couple of things here as we finish this segment. Number one, we never shift or move our weight. You know this one. We don't walk ladders around. Ladders are not to be moved, shifted, extended while an employee is on it. This includes Baker's scaffold. It includes step ladders, rolling staircases. Really should not be moved when an employee is on it. Now, it may keep your boots dry when the sewers back up. Yeah. So it makes for entertaining YouTube videos, but not a safe practice. Do not walk or shift ladders while you're on them. Also, don't take items that don't belong. There are some things that are too heavy, and they really shouldn't be on a ladder at all. They might make you lose your balance. So don't take those heavy items. You think, how many things are going wrong here? And yeah, this goes south pretty quick. And you can see there's at least 5 or 6 things going wrong here. So don't take those heavy items. They might make you lose your balance. And then finally, that we're facing the ladder when we're climbing up and down. Now look at the last 5 words. When climbing up and down. So facing a ladder, required when we're climbing, very similar to 3 points of contact, but turns into a best practice when we're working from a ladder. And again, through innovation, there are some ladders that are more narrow on the backside. Think of that through. The ladder that I've had out here, the Little Giant King Combo, the reason that we've designed the back legs to be 14 inches wide is so that a lot of end users in between studs, in between the boiler and the wall, also for maintenance or operations, we can get in between those tight or confined space, and it encourages you to face the ladder and face the work because of the product's design. Okay, so in your notes, and then we'll ask for any questions. So make sure that you go to the Q&A and type in any questions, and we'll read through those. And then we'd like to shift gears and talk about some solutions that are available. But first of all, in your notes, choose the right ladder. Make sure the right ladder is the right material, the weight rating, the style, the size. You get to choose the right ladder. Make sure it is appropriate for the work that you're doing. Inspection is required. Look a ladder over before each initial use, and a good idea at home before you use it. Also, that you're setting ladders up in a safe environment at the correct angle. The big one there was that we're carrying ladders with more intention than you ever have before. Make sure that you carry ladders safely, and that we're climbing ladders safely. And that included the 3 points of contact, that we face the ladder as we do. And the big one there was that we never, ever overreach. Okay, Dave, let's shift some gears. And then I'm going to step over. And Paxton, do you want to bring up any of the Q&A that might be here if we do have Q&A? And if not, then Dave, you want to lead us in a discussion of the four big reasons that people are injured because of ladders. Might be surprising to a lot of people.
Kenyon, thank you so much for covering very valuable information. Let's try to knock ladder or falls off of the number 1 spot. Let somebody else be the number 1 cause. But there's some valuable information, not only just on how we teach ladder safety, but statistically, what are the causes of the common accidents at home or on a job site, and how can we avoid those common causes? So what are the 4, maybe 5 common causes of accidents by the statistics, and what can we do on a job site to prevent them?
Yeah. And you have taught me that number 1, and we say it during the training, is that ladders are often too heavy. That they can be long, they can be awkward, but especially top heavy. So the solution would be to, well, bring attention to carrying ladders with more intention, but then also as the industry continues to make lighter equipment, I think that that's a huge initiative for all ladder manufacturers to make lighter equipment. And there's better equipment. So number one, that's a big problem, is that ladders can lead to strain and sprain, and the solution is to make lighter equipment. Number two, we said it during the training, the second leading cause of ladder injury, 20% of reportable injury on ladders is just that people miss that bottom step. As you come down, I mean, I've done it, you've probably done it, even my mother, she's on a ladder in her own garage, and she comes down and misses that bottom step, and she lands and bruises up some ribs. So it does happen all over the world. So make sure that you are aware of where you are, and that's why Little Giant has created or patented that bottom rung indicator. We call it a ground cue. But the second leading cause of ladder injury, so solutions within that field. And then one of the other leading causes, number three, would be that people often don't have the right ladder. So they choose to stand on the wrong rung, or they choose to do something unsafe, stacking ladders on top of other items, or standing on the top rung, or standing on the top cap. So having multi-position and multi-purpose ladders, I think, is a real solution there. The King Combo just being an example of that. We've already shown you how you can just open it up to be an extension ladder when necessary, and it might save you a trip to go to the maintenance closet to go get a bigger ladder, because this turns in or converts into a bigger ladder in my hands. But the Conquest, the Velocity, ladders that work on stairs, again, not having the right size or not the right type of ladder can be helped along by having a ladder that can do more than one thing. And then our final point, and I'll grab this question, but our final number four, as far as the leading causes of injury and the solutions that the ladder industry is creating, is the overreaching, which is exacerbated by the unlevel terrain. So think of those kind of as a twofold, but we put them in the same category, because the levelness of the ground is one thing, but then the overreaching makes it even worse. So things like outriggers or levelers, and there've been some great things out there. I've seen a lot of manufacturers that either have accessories that you can bolt on, or some that are even built in, the leveling devices or outriggers that can adapt. So Little Giant makes the Sumo stance, the one back here behind me, that doubles your width at the base and then also gives you those leveling capabilities. So if we double your width at the base, 6 times the side tip stability, and then also the ability to adjust, because the ground just isn't as firm and level as we would like. So there are solutions, and we applaud the ladder industry for creating those kind of solutions. Again, Little Giant being part of that. Let me step over here. Paxton, you want to follow me? And let's look what Mr. Piera or Ms. Why do you think we continue to see fatalities, injuries related to ladders, even though we continue to push for safety a lot more than we have throughout the years? Yes, I would strongly agree. And there are other, feel free to type in other questions. But why do we continue to see, as Dave said, why do we see falls continue to be number one? The ALI, this is the 10th year of ladder safety, or National Ladder Safety Month. And why do we continue to see? I think because people are willing to take risks. They think, oh, if I got away with it on Tuesday, I'm going to get away with it on Thursday. And they continue to be, and there are a lot of big organizations that have protocol, they have safety programs, they have officers and EH&S that will oversee safety programs. But there are a lot of end users that work for smaller crews. They might be self-employed, and I would think that there are people that take risks. And we also know that a lot of these accidents or incidents happen at home as well. So even those of us that know better, like I said, you get in the privacy of your own backyard, and how many of us get tempted? Not that you're going to do the wrong thing, but have you ever been in a position to where it would have been really easy to do the wrong thing? And there are some people that know better, but then turn around and choose to not act within what they know. So common knowledge isn't always common practice, and people do choose to be unsafe. Okay, and then Scott, thanks for the thumbs up. Thank you, and thanks very much. Considered arc flash. Yes, fiber bloom. It is a real thing. I don't know if it happens very often, but ladders that do have that fiber bloom, and extreme cases, but we've all pulled into the gas station. You might have one at home or at work, but I pulled into the gas station quite often, and I see these chalky white fiberglass ladders that have deteriorated to the point that, and again, somebody thinks, well, it won't happen to me, or maybe they're just not familiar, or they don't know that they do. You've just opened up the fibers to draw moisture or wick moisture into the side rail, and we've heard of cases where they have arc flash. So yeah, be aware of that, and just tag those ladders, rotate them out, get a new ladder. Yeah, perfect. Let's step over here. Any other questions? Feel free to answer those, and then, or ask those if you'd like. If you have any other questions, lots of other follow-up training available on the American Ladder Institute's website. We applaud them in their initiatives and what they're doing with the ANSI committee and those that sit on those committees and really push for ladder safety throughout the industry. I really do feel, and I've been doing this for 31 years, it feels like we are getting better, even though we still see these statistics. I think we as a whole, as an organization and as a community, bringing attention and awareness to this issue, things do get better if they're tracked or if they're reported, and the fact that the ALI and ANSI are bringing attention to this. And hopefully you're doing your own initiatives. We still have another, 2.5 weeks within the month of March. So please do what you can to bring awareness. We know that your companies and those of you that are using ladders, just share this information. Make your own, whether it's LinkedIn posts, Instagram, whatever. Make sure, just bring awareness to it. Even if you just tell your neighbor or tell a friend or tell a family member to be safe. Just that reminder, top of mind, common knowledge, and then hopefully we'll turn this into common practice to be safe. So please be safe in the work that you do. Little Giant's also going to be part of an ALI training, I believe, next week. And we applaud what the ALI is doing. If Little Giant can be a resource for you at all, you can always reach out to us for any further training or product demonstrations and the like. So anyway, any questions, make sure that you reach out to a rep or a Little Giant employee that can help you. But outside of that, please choose to be safe. Now that you know the right thing, now let's go out and do the right thing. All right. See you next time.
Thank you, Kenyon. Thank you, Dave. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. You can find the recording of each webinar in this series online at laddersafetymonth.com, along with additional ladder safety resources. And thank you again to Little Giant for sponsoring today's webinar, and to all of you for being so engaged and participating in National Ladder Safety Month. Have a great day.